Hey, everybody, welcome to the Jim Masters Show Live Entertainment Lifestyle Celebrity Talk Show Series. Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to the show from wherever you're watching all around the world. I'm your host, Jim Masters. It's always cool to have you here. Thanks for all the comments, all the lovity, the JMS lovity you've been sharing on all of the social media platforms at Jim Masters TV, clicking like, supporting, sharing, raving about our incredible series that is extraordinarily unique. We do entertainment, but we also do poignant moments, lots of laughs, and we bring in people from all around the world as we are inching on almost 1,000 episodes, which is unbelievable in a short period of time. It's so great to have you here. We originate from the United States, of course, from the New York area, tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, along the southern New England coast between New York and Boston. A little rainy here today. We were sort of spoiled. We've had temperatures that have been like in the upper 60s, 70 for this time of year in winter, which is so extraordinary and rare, but we will not complain. We absolutely love it. A little rainy today, some on and off cool temperatures, but hey, it's all in how you look at it, right? And boy, do we have a great guest that's going to sprinkle some color and some vim and vigor into the conversation today. He's an extraordinary artist. Mutual friend Glenn Hansen was our guest on our show, special guest, not that long ago. You may remember. If you missed that episode, go check that out. Everything is archived on our YouTube channel, hundreds of episodes. You can check them all out. We are very honored to welcome Joshua David McKenney to the show, creator of Pidgin Doll. Yes. Have you seen the Pidgin Doll collection? It's extraordinary. He's a multi-talented creative. He's a designer, an artist, a sculptor, wildly popular on social media, and we are so excited to have him here. This is an exclusive series of incredible dolls as a doll maker that he has crafted and designed. They come from his heart and soul. And they are incredible, and they have been widely revered, noted, and people absolutely love them. We're going to show you some of them as well. We're going to sprinkle in some of the cool ones that he has designed, coming to us from Los Angeles, California. Just want to let you guys know you can comment during the show if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is the channel you're watching right now, Jim Masters TV, where we house all these episodes. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel, give it some lovity, click subscribe. Doesn't cost anything. When you do that, you get to chat right now while the show is on in our JMS Lovity Hall exclusive chat room. Say hello to each other. Let us know that you're enjoying it. Let us know where you're watching from. And we might even sprinkle a comment or two during the show on the bottom of the screen. And everybody loves when we get a chance to do that. See lots of viewers already chiming in here. Thanks very much for the lovity, and folks that will be coming in a little bit later as the show is on. If you ever miss anything, ever come in late or miss something, don't worry about it, because all the episodes are archived right here on the channel just for you. I know we all lead busy lives, and sometimes you can't be here when the show is live. Well, don't worry about it. That's why we have the bevy of episodes all archived on our YouTube channel for all of you. All right, let's get the show started. We're so excited again. After studying photography at the Parsons School of Design, Joshua worked as a fashion illustrator before turning to sculpture and doll making. A self-taught sculptor, he set about creating Pidgin Doll, a handsome artist doll he produces himself. And Pidgin has evolved into a multimedia endeavor encompassing dolls and sculpture, illustration, and digital content. It's also become a muse to over 2.5 million fans on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram as well. And Joshua runs Pidgin Doll with his husband, Eric, from their home in Los Angeles, California. Truly, it is the brainchild of Joshua David McKenney, an independent artist based in Los Angeles, originally from the East Coast, from Pennsylvania, and then made his home in New York, and then had opportunities to head out west to LA, and that's where they are now. And let me tell you, the fanfare has been extraordinary. Covers of lots of the popular magazines like 17. Take a look at the craftsmanship. Take a look at the artistry just on your screen right there. And we'll talk about it all. Yep. Here's another one. Vogue LA. Incredible, right? Insider. New York Observer, a full spread, a full story as well. All of these here. The work is absolutely incredible. And the Pidgin Dolls, there it is. That's a typical day for Joshua. And the work is absolutely incredible. It really, really is. And also, they do work, for corporations and companies that bring them in to do different sort of, projects and branding and things of that nature as well. Even Pop-Tarts. Isn't that cool? We're going to talk about how it's all done. We're not going to give away secrets, but he'll share, some of the process with us as well. We're going to tell you who. Can you guess who you think some of these incredible Pidgin Dolls are? We're going to name some of them. Look at the work. Look at the detail. It's extraordinary, isn't it? Absolutely. Look at the color and really cool stuff, folks. You may never have heard of these before. So that's cool if you haven't, because we're going to introduce it to you. If you're a collector of them, well, we're going to tell you how you can add to your collection or start your collection, because we'll give you ways that you can get your own. But this is extraordinary. We're so honored to have him here on the show. So without further ado, I see comments coming in already. Thanks for joining us, gang. Let's welcome Joshua David McKenney to our show, live and direct from his studio in Los Angeles, California. Joshua, welcome to the show. It's cool to have you here.
Hi, Jim. Thank you for having me.
Oh, fantastic. We got that mutual friend, another creative and fellow talent, Glenn Hansen, and we appreciate him so much, don't we?
Oh, we love Glenn. Glenn is a great artist and great friend, and very just very admirable body of work. I've been a big fan of his for a long time.
How did you guys meet? How did you guys end up becoming friends?
So before I was a doll maker, I worked as a fashion illustrator, and I don't think we were signed at the same agency at the same time, but we both worked for the same agency for a while. And I remember he lived in LA and I was still in New York at the time. I was probably this is probably 15 years ago. And I just wrote him. I do this a lot. I kind of, when there's somebody I'm interested in knowing, I just kind of cold call them and see if they want to get together. And I wrote him and I just told him I was a big fan of his work and I wanted to sort of pick his brain about the way he broke into the illustration industry. And in particular, at the time, I was very interested in how he sort of juggled the commercial work that he was doing, because he has quite a portfolio of commercial work, but then he also had this really cool queer side to his portfolio, which at the time felt like you really had to separate who you were as a person versus what your portfolio looked like at the time. And I felt like he did a good job of marrying them. And I wanted to ask him about that. And I don't even know if he remembers, and I'm embarrassed to think about the questions that I asked him because I was very cheeky and naive. But yeah, that's how I met him, and he was super kind and really generous with information for me. Because I really wasn't working a lot as an illustrator at the time. I was just trying to break into it, and he was very transparent about his advice. The way he worked as an illustrator and got work and that sort of stuff. So. Yeah, that's how I met Glenn. And then so now we both live in LA, and I see him out and about sometimes, and we have a lot of mutual friends and connections now. So
That's so cool, huh? When you make friends and you have an opportunity to sort of maybe even collaborate sometimes on different projects and different ideas and help each other. There's nothing better, right?
yeah, absolutely. Artists that support each other that's what we should all be doing.
Absolutely right. So how did the Pigeon Doll develop? What was the vision and your dream? Were you just toying around with different designs and different ideas, and all of a sudden the doll developed? What was the inspiration for you to create this incredible line of dolls?
Thanks, Jim. I started making dolls a little over 10 years ago. I was just interested in it. I started seeing photos of ball jointed dolls coming out of Asia, which is what Pidgin is. She's cast in resin and she's strung internally with elastic, and it has to do with the engineering of the doll. But they're not at all intended for children to play with. They're for adults to collect and to express themselves with, whether it's painting the faces or making wigs or just dressing them. But anyway, I'd never seen dolls look quite so elevated. And there was another artist, a doll artist that I'm still a huge fan of, named Marina Bichkova. And she has a line of dolls called Enchanted Dolls. And I saw her work And I just became absolutely obsessed with it because if you've ever looked her up, look up Enchanted Doll by Marina Bichkova. She's a Russian-born Canadian artist, and I'd never seen a doll emote so much or look so. Her work is kind of like, it has sort of a melancholy tone to it. It's very based in fairy tales, and the dolls they're just exquisite. And she's also a jewelry smith, and she casts metal and gold and does really fine work. And it was because of her work that I sort of started changing my idea of what a doll could be, and that it could be something that just would be elevated, and not at all for kids. And so I just got into my head that I wanted to start making my own. I took some classes in sculpture and porcelain casting because my earliest dolls were cast in porcelain, and just kind of taught myself everything there is to know about doll making. I started a social media account for Pidgin probably like 3 or 4 years after I had started making dolls, just because I didn't want to like flood my personal feed with photos of dolls if people weren't into dolls or whatever. And that's kind of how her audience started happening, Pidgin's audience started happening. And slowly it just kind of all built up from there.
It's incredible, isn't it? Did you come from a family of artists and creatives? Where did that inspiration come early on for
I do
you?
come from a lot of artists and creatives. Both of my parents were musicians. My grandmother was a visual artist and a sculptor. I actually have an uncle who also is a sculptor and likes dolls and sculpts dolls as well. We don't. He's been really helpful. Like, he's been very encouraging of me with my doll making ventures, but we don't. It's not like we grew up together making dolls together or anything like that. We both sort of separately started our journeys together or whatever. But we do trade secrets and that sort of stuff, But yeah. Art was always encouraged in my family, which I'm very grateful for, because everybody was creative in some way.
I mentioned you grew up in Pennsylvania and you went to New York, right?
Yeah, so my family moved around a little bit. I was actually born in California. My family moved away when I was just a baby. We lived in Florida till I was 9. And then we moved to Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, which is like where Amish people live. My family was not Amish, but we did go to sort of a conservative Mennonite, Reformed Mennonite church, which was quite conservative in retrospect. And I moved to New York in 99, and I was there for 20 years before I moved to LA about 3 years ago.
What's really amazing is behind you, there is this image. It looks like there is a woman standing there listening to the conversation over by the door there, the window.
Here, yes, this is my ninth. She's actually a giant Barbie mannequin that was made for a 2009 MAC Cosmetics Barbie collaboration. And she was in a storefront window. They made, I think, about 19 of them. That were only in like the major MAC stores in the big cities, so like Detroit, New York, LA, I think Houston. I don't know where she was from, but my friend found her online. She was painted differently. I have since painted her blue and drew the flowers on her and dressed her up. So she's sort of my like giant Barbie. But her face is the original 1959 Barbie head sculpt, and then her body is just like a normal mannequin body. It's not really a Barbie body. It's just a generic, but she's cool. I used to have
How
two.
tall is she?
She's tall. She's about as tall as I am. So she's about 6'2". She's much bigger than, like, it's hard to find wigs that'll fit her head because her head is so enlarged. But yeah, she's pretty big.
That is cool. Have you done a lot of those figures?
I've done. So my friend Darian used to work for MAC Cosmetics, and she had 2 of them, and they were painted in the style of the palette that they were promoting at the time. And the artist didn't really know much about the way the original Barbie's face was painted. So her eyebrows were like way up here. It was a little more draggy. And then what looks like a giant eyelid was painted like an eyelid. But what it actually is it's a sort of lash shape. It's like a sculpted lash. So I repainted hers to look more like the original Barbie sculpts, because I feel like it suited the face a little bit better. And I did that maybe a year ago. And then my friend Bill, who works at Mattel, found 2 more of the Barbie mannequins on OfferUp and told us all, we're in a chat group of doll enthusiasts here in LA, and called the Doll Mafia. And he told us about it, and I ended up buying both of them. And then my friend Amy bought one of them off of me, because I really only have room in my studio for one mannequin. But so she lives here now, and I've only painted her once, but I'll probably, I think that'll be a thing that I do every few years, where I'll paint her a different color or do some sort of different concept with her.
That's so cool. So
I usually work pretty small. This is, life size isn't my normal repertoire.
So that was for MAC, you said. Yeah, MAC Cosmetics.
MAC Cosmetics.
Yeah, very cool.
2009, I think. But they looked really different. They had a really different sort of face paint and coloring when I got her. She's over.
My mother worked for Estee Lauder Cosmetics in New York, and MAC is part of the Estee Lauder company and brand. So we're very familiar with the MAC, and a lot of the professionals in television and movies and film and all, they use the MAC products because they're good. They last, and the MAC counters are always busy. Yeah. Especially at Macy's and Nordstrom's and those places. So that's cool work. So the studio that you're in looks really cool. Tell us about the atmosphere of the studio where you work, Joshua.
So the studio always is kind of evolving, because I'm always changing the way that I work a little bit. I just got this shelf behind me that's sort of lit up as a way to sort of display finished dolls and a few dolls that I've collected. And that's kind of when I finish a doll that's been in like a commercial or a video, they usually live in there. And then other ones I kind of tuck away and store. The table behind me here, it's backwards for me. This table here is kind of where I do a lot of my work and my filming. Right now I'm getting set up to make a wig. So you can see there's some fiber here. Ooh, I can't do this. Fiber here, and there's a little wig stand there where I make the wig. So I'll be making a wig there. This is my 3D printer behind me over here. That's from Formlabs that I use to print sculptures and stuff. And then I have a drop screen over here where I pull it down to film things where I need to be in them. So it's a combination work studio, film studio. And then this is my computer where I do a lot of my digital sculpting and Photoshop and that sort of stuff. So the space kind of gets recycled a lot, but I try to keep it as clear as I can in the middle, just so I can use the space. If there's something big, my husband and I make a lot of like commercials for like TikTok and YouTube and stuff with the dolls. And so if we need the space to like build a giant tree or to make a set, we kind of keep the space open so we can use that for that sort of stuff too.
So what's a typical day like for you, Joshua? It's got to be intense. And you're also commissioned by people and companies to create the dolls too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say in the past year, I stopped taking custom orders and really selling dolls at all because of my social media audience. I have brands and corporations wanting to advertise on my channel. So if it makes sense, if I can make it work, if it feels right, I don't say yes to everything, but if I can make it work, I can find some sort of fun, cheeky camp way to do it. I'll take in that commercial work, and usually it's making a video about creating a doll where I sort of plug the product or whatever, and I try to keep it very like sort of light and transparent. And but yeah, it's been this sort of cool. Every day, honestly, Jim, it changes like every 3 weeks. It's like the way we do business and the way jobs are coming in and what I'm working on is just, it always changes. So it's kind of hard to pin down, but you know, my husband and I, we live and we work together, and he has his office at the front of the apartment which is also our living room. And he sort of handles like more of the admin side of things. He helps out with like building sets and setting up with stuff, and he helps edit sometimes. But his background, he calls himself a recovering lawyer. So until about 5 years ago, when he quit and started working with me, he was a lawyer. So he goes over all of our contracts and handles the brand negotiations and that sort of stuff, which is it's nice to have two heads on this.
Absolutely. The business side is so important. And so, you're creating, and he's making sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. So, have people asked for these to be available like in stores? And I'm sure you've been approached multiple times for that, huh?
Yeah. People ask about that sort of thing a lot. I mean, there's a big difference between a commercially manufactured playline doll and what I do. And if I were to ever scale Pidgin Doll into a commercially manufactured doll, it would just be a completely different setup.
Right.
The way I work right now is I'm the sculptor behind the doll. So I sculpt the doll or dolls. I have multiple Pidgin Doll sculpts now at this point. So I sculpt the dolls, I do all the engineering, I have them cast in resin. I work with an outside casting studio that casts the dolls for me. They send them back to me blank. I paint each one myself. I either make the wigs from scratch or I modify existing wigs. I have the clothes made because she's not in a scale that any other doll clothes fit her. So I make the shoes from scratch. I sculpt them. So it's a very it's not a one-man operation because I have people that work with me on like a freelance basis that help sew for me or whatever. But it's a very different thing than making like 10,000 of one doll that gets boxed up and is made in a factory sort of stuff. So that's not really my wheelhouse, and maybe someday I'll get into that. But I would have to probably work with like an outside toy manufacturer in order to do that, because it's not. I often tell people, even though I make dolls, what I really am is just like an artist, like a sculptor or a painter or anything like that. It's just the output is a doll as opposed to a painting, but everything is made by hand. There's nothing commercial or factory about it.
Which is, in this day and age is extraordinary. And, kudos to you for keeping it that way, keeping it authentic, because I think there's really no way to really, carbon copy these, because I mean, you probably could in certain ways, but you put so much love and heart and soul into the creation of each of them, don't you?
Yeah, there's so much that goes into the dolls that people often ask me if I'm worried that a toy company's going to rip me off or something, and it's not really possible. What the things that I can do with the dolls with myself wouldn't be able to be reproduced in a factory. So it's not. I definitely, as I've become more known as a doll artist and I have more followers, I definitely see my work reflected in commercial dolls now, which is kind of cool and flattering. But I've never been like directly ripped off or anything like that. So it's not something I really worry about.
I would imagine you've probably been approached maybe by some of the larger companies to even work with them to design product for them, dolls and what have you for them.
Yeah, a little bit. I've been approached by 2 or 3 toy companies. A few times I've done it. Ultimately, I don't consider myself like a sculptor for hire. I'm fine doing things on my own. The way I don't like to work and then give that work away to a larger entity. And it's a luxury that I have now as an artist, that I can keep my work for myself and just use it to build my own brand. So that's always been sort of my objective. I would work with a toy company to help produce Pidgin Doll as something more accessible for people. I mean, that's the one thing that, I have, lots and lots of followers that all want my dolls and I can't give them to them. And I wish there was a way I could make my work accessible to them, because they're always going to be a high price point item. Anything handmade is going to be more expensive than something that's made in a factory. But also the way I'm working now is I'm not even selling dolls anymore. I don't have time to put collections up for sale. I used to release collections of like 10 to 15 dolls every season, like a fashion designer, and release them like I would put a collection of 15 dolls up on my website, and then people would write and tell me which ones they want. They'd usually sell out in like 15 or 20 minutes. And I would do that every season, like every spring, or I'd do like a spring summer collection, a fall winter collection, or 4 collections or 2, depending on how much time I had. But I haven't been able to do that for a long time. So I don't sell them anymore. So I wish there was a way to make them accessible, is my point. But
because the demand is there, right? The audience is like, oh, we want them. Yeah, I know. Isn't that something? That's a great position to be in, Joshua.
Yeah.
People want them, and the demand is there, and
Yeah, I'm a very fortunate artist. I've worked very, very hard to get here, but I know that there's a lot of artists that have worked equally as hard that haven't had the success that I have. So I feel very fortunate.
I want to show people some of the extraordinary works here you've been kind enough to share with our show, and anybody that's watching. Our very special guest, Joshua David McKenney, is here from Los Angeles, California. Extraordinary creator of the Pidgin Doll. That's right, this whole collection, and there's so many of them. We just pulled a few here just to give you an idea of the extraordinary work and the detail and how incredible they are. Look at this one here. Maybe we'll go through some of them and you can tell us what we're seeing.
Sure. So this doll was made for, it was actually a stop motion animation that I did for Facebook, was a client. And so it was one of the first jobs that I did when I moved to LA. She's the bass player. You can see a little bit of her bass in the photo there, but it was a three girl band. Pidgin Doll band. They had Pidgin Doll written on the drum kit, like the Misfits or whatever. And so I sent her to, after I made the doll, she got sent to a puppet rigger, who is somebody who takes puppets and rigs them for stop motion animation. So he drilled screw bolts into her feet and put 2 kinds of wire through her body, so she'd be able to hold poses a little bit better, and did all these things. I still have her. And he did that to the other 2 dolls that were used in the stop motion too. And then we spent about a week creating and modifying all their instruments, the mic stands, the drums, making them look like they've been used. We built a set. We had to cement the table down. I hired like a whole crew of professional stop motion animation people. So there's one animator on the job named Savannah Steiner, who is so incredibly talented. She actually just finished working on the Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. And she did the animation, and my friend Hillary and I did the set together, and we had a lighting person. We spent about 2 days animating them and got about 5 seconds of footage out of all of that.
That's what happens, right?
Yeah, it's really cool. But when you play it, you can kind of loop it and move it around. There, it's on my YouTube if you want to see it. But she was definitely, I think she's one of my favorites from the collection. She just looks really like she's very rock and roll girl.
So cool, huh?
She was a doll that I did. I think I debuted her at Designer Con here in LA, which is a collection or a convention for designers that make things. And I guess she's probably like from 3 or 4 years ago. And my friend Mio, who is also an amazing sculptor and artist and doll person, ended up buying her. So yeah, she's a really cool doll. But I always kind of say that I'm sort of like a makeup artist masquerading as a doll maker, like the makeup and changing the doll's faces with makeup and really playing around with the way I can paint Pidgin's face is like a very big part of the expression. So this is one of the first times I think I painted her with these sort of round, more like sort of 1920s eye shapes. Really
incredible. How long does it take to do something like what we're looking at right there, Joshua?
I mean, to paint, it's always hard to pinpoint how long it takes because there's so many different elements, and it depends if I'm like hand making the wig or if I'm pulling from something I already made or I have, or I'm modifying it, or a lot of the dolls in my collection like this, like the coat that she's wearing, like I sourced that fabric and I had somebody make like 10 or 20 of them just so I could have them in stock for people to buy for their dolls when they shop for me. And her dress that she's wearing is actually, I was calling it digital lace. And what it is it's Tyvek, which is, I don't know if you've ever seen Tyvek. It's what they put like outside houses when they're building them or whatever. It feels like paper, but it's impossible to rip. And
Right.
that's what appealed to me about it. And then I drew this pattern and put it into a cutting machine. And so I'd lay the Tyvek down on it, and it would cut out the pattern into the dress shape. And then I'd paint it and sort of paste it into place so it became an actual dress. And that's what her dresses were. So like, I don't know, all the elements come together at different times. So, I mean, I usually would say, like, if you broke it all down, maybe like a week and a half, 2 weeks, but it's hard to say. There's sometimes or I need a doll really quick and I can like finish it, pull from what I have and get it done in like a day, but it just sort of depends what the specifications are.
What the specifications are, right? That's incredible. I mean, just looking at the detail. Here's another terrific one. Look at this one.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, she has one of the same Tyvek dresses on. She was from a slightly later collection. I think that's when I first moved to LA. I remember I bought those flowers at the flower shop near my house and shot the collection. I have a photography background. That's what was my major in college. And so photographing the dolls and having them sort of emote like real characters is a big part of my expression with dolls. You know, I feel like I get to really play God in all the elements of the imagery that I make with Pidgin, because I do the hair, I do the makeup, I style the clothes, I set up the photos, and then I pose them and light them and make them emote the things that I want to have them emote.
It's really incredible. And you can see the photography skill as well coming to bear here with these shots. Really beautiful work, my friend, on so many different levels. When I was going through them too for the show, I had been, very aware of your work and a fan of your work. But when we were looking at what to include in the Jim Master Show series here, it was hard to just select because you love them all. They're cool.
Right. This one was from my last. This is the last collection I released. That was called the Poodle Collection, and I have a golden doodle named Lady. I can show you her picture here. That's her. And so it's it was a little bit inspired by her, this idea, because her fur is kind of apricot colored, and I've always loved poodles and this sort of idea of this really manicured, foofy, feminine dog. And so I did a collection of 5 dolls that were all inspired by pink poodles. And my dog is obsessed with tennis balls in particular. So a lot of the accessories are tennis ball inspired as well. But yeah, the poodle collection was sort of where I wanted to go after I stopped taking. I used to take custom orders, so people would write me and say, I want a pigeon doll with brown skin and black hair and green eyes and this kind of makeup, and I would customize them for them. And I got so busy doing those that I wasn't able to do any dolls of my own design. And the poodle collection was the first time I could really, like, after I stopped taking custom orders, I could come up with like a concept that I thought was fun and really execute it, to as best as I could. And yeah, it was really fun. And it was a very popular collection. It gets a lot of like fan art, and I still see a lot of poodles coming up when people tag me and stuff. It's something that I've become associated with, which I like.
So cool.
There's another poodle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Her name is Fifi. The way I painted their faces, she was the most, the sculpt is just a normal human sculpt. I just painted the black to sort of resemble a sort of poodle snout a little bit, but they all had different faces, some of them more human, some of them more poodle. I guess the term is anthropomorphic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Look at this one. This is going to pop for you, folks. Boom. Wow.
She was fun. Yeah. Those are some glasses I sculpted digitally and 3D printed, and then stoned them myself, which took a little bit of time. But yeah, she's very sort of Joan Crawfordy, isn't she?
Yes, actually.
Like Disco Crawford.
Exactly right. Younger version of no wire hangers.
Yeah.
Look at this one here. Even your water bottle there is cool. Did you
Thanks. Yeah.
Sparkle that up too?
I didn't. No, this was gifted to me
Cool.
by my friend Justin. I named it Mariah Carey because I feel like it looks like.
It does very much have that ambiance.
Yeah. This doll was a custom doll that I had, and they wanted her to be like monochromatic black. The skin tone is called obsidian that I use, and yeah, they just wanted little flecks of gold. So she has gold nails and a little gold in her eyes. She has a little gold crescent on her neck there. But she was a custom doll that I did, and I made that wig from scratch too.
Again, I was going to say, like you say, you know, you probably get people all the time asking you if you can make this, you can make that. You probably get people that even ask you to make, you know, just everyday people saying, oh, can you make one of my sister or of me or of my husband? Or just because they see the work and they hope that they can,
yeah,
you know, hire you to do that.
Yeah.
You would get no sleep.
Yeah, Pidgin Doll is the name of the sculpt of the doll. So all of the dolls that you've shown so far are all the exact same sculpt. I've just painted them differently, and they're cast in different complexion colors. So I sculpted this doll maybe 5 years ago, and I have them reproduced, and I paint each one individually. So that's how I'm able to do that. But to sculpt a doll for each job would be like almost impossible. It's a little more possible now with 3D printing, but I've been playing around with more one-offs and that sort of stuff, but to have something manufactured is impossible. But yeah, no, it's I get a lot of inquiries, and I really only at this point can work sort of with like commercial brands, because those are the sort of you know, that's what I have room in. They have room for me in their budget, whereas, you know.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at this one here.
Yeah, I think she was for another collection too. Her earrings were actually made by this really amazing artist called Girl 1000, who's in the UK. And she does really, really amazing earrings for people. And she found my work online and asked me if she could make earrings for my dolls. And maybe 6 months later, she sent me this little gift box, and it was just full of all these really amazing earrings that were perfectly scaled for Pidgin. So I try to throw them in whenever I can, because her work is really amazing.
Really, again, just the detail, like I'm saying, is just extraordinary on so many different levels.
Oh yeah, this doll was also, that was another, she was from the same collection as that one with the red hair that you showed. So she was one from Designer Con. And this shot, actually, it's funny because I sold her at the convention without ever having photographing her. I hadn't photographed her, but I really liked the way I painted her face. So before the customer took her, I asked if I could just run outside really quick. I had my camera with me, and I just went outside really quick and shot these pictures up against the wall of the convention center. I had a record of what she looked like, and it actually turned out to be a pretty cute photo. But
that's awesome. That really is a cool shot. She almost looks like, I can't think of the actress that's on one of the CBS. I don't know if she's on one of the CSIs. It looks like the actress. I'm trying to think of who she is, but she's one of the main characters in one of the maybe it's CSI Los Angeles or one of them, but it almost looks like her in such an uncanny way. Yeah.
It's always amazing who they can get to, what you can get a doll to evoke with just makeup and hair and
absolutely lighting. Yeah.
These two,
it's what we call double lovity.
Yeah, these two I did. I went to a convention in Lyon, France, called Elle Doll, which is probably one of the largest high-end doll conventions. And I'd only been to it once, but I heard that it was this really amazing convention. And so all the dolls that I brought with me were sort of French inspired. So I did these sort of Marie Antoinette hairstyles for them. That I had to make like a wire cage for them, and then lay the hair on top of it, and it's all alpaca is the fiber that I used for those wigs. And then the dresses I 3D printed. So I did, I think, 5 or 6 one-of-a-kind dolls that these two were part of, and then I did a small edition of, I think, 10 dolls that were also sort of French inspired.
So cool, really, so cool. Here's another.
Oh yeah, that's actually that was the addition doll that I did. So she came with me and I made 10 of her. So she's sort of a French Betty Boop.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly what I see. Then you get into, and that's just a few of those, but
Yeah.
folks, you're going to be blown away by the likeness that he captures with some of your favorite celebrities and stars in music and film and television and so much more, like Nicki Minaj. How cool is that, huh?
So I did a show with Hearst. I guess it'd be 3 years ago at this point. We shot 3 seasons of it. It's a Snapchat show called Tiny Hair. And the channel was called Sweet, or is called Sweet. I think they're actually going to be, they were on 17's TikTok for a while, but we would take Pidgin Doll, and I worked with this really amazing, this is the set, it was me working on the set. The person who made this set, his name is Philip Nuveen, and he's this really amazing miniaturist. And so he built a little salon for Pidgin. And so the dolls that we're using are actually not the dolls that I typically use. These are 12-inch or 30-centimeter dolls, and they're much more simply articulated. The dolls I normally work with are about 40 centimeters or 16 inches. But because we needed to shoot on such a small scale, I'd been working on a smaller version of Pidgin, and that's what this is. So each episode we'd pick a celebrity and in a particular like hairstyle or something they had done that was sort of cool and relevant at the time, had to be super trendy, and recreate it on Pidgin in the salon in real time. So I would make the wigs out of alpaca, because it's a natural fiber. You can dye it like human hair, or heat style it and do everything you can do with real hair. Like you wouldn't be able to do it with plastic hair, but because this was a natural fiber, you could. And I would just recreate whatever celebrity look on the doll. And we had somebody from Pravana, which was the hair color company that sponsored the show, on staff as well. In between my hair dye knowledge and hers, we were able to reproduce every hairstyle, but in mini.
That's incredible. I tell you, even though the work is, this is professional work, and sometimes I'm sure it could be tedious and very intense. Do you sometimes feel like a kid in a candy store or a toy store? You're getting a chance to create these fabulous things, and there is a childlike quality to the ability to create them. Not that they're made for kids, which they're not, but still, just being surrounded by all of this love. It's got to be cool.
Well, yeah. Well, Jim, I grew up in a really conservative home, and I wasn't allowed to play with dolls or have feminine things in general. It was really looked down upon. So by the time I didn't really get into doll making until I was in my mid to late 20s. So by the time I was sort of interested in wanting dolls, the commercial dolls that were targeted towards kids just weren't cutting it for me anymore. It wasn't giving me enough. I really wanted my own doll, and I really wanted it to be like a little more elevated, and I wanted to be able to like dye the hair and really get this sort of like larger expression out of it than just, something out of a box. So I don't necessarily feel like a kid. I feel very much like my adult self, but I think every creative person, and I think everybody, you have to be in touch with your inner child and that part of you that was fascinated by something, because that's always still there, and it doesn't make it immature. It makes it, it satisfies something in me that I don't know. I don't feel like it's necessarily based in childhood, but it's something that's present in childhood as well as adulthood, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely right. Like the inner child and the adult body and mindset on so many different levels. It's really,
I think a lot of people limit themselves to do things like dolls or whatever, because they feel like they should have outgrown it by now, and I just don't agree with that. I don't see any difference between what I do and what a sculptor who works in bronze would do, or what a painter who works in oil. It's just that's more common, and people are used to seeing artists create that sort of way. But I want to work with my hands, and I want to work with real hair, and I want to, I want the photography and the videos and everything. That kind of is the final product for me, especially at this point. So I use the dolls as a way to express myself, but very much as a mature artist. But that said, I do try to I have a lot of kids that follow my work and like my work, and so I try to keep things very family friendly, and I don't get it's not adult work, but it's I don't consider my work for children.
You ever make a doll of yourself?
I don't. I never did. I'm not particularly. I'm not saying I never will, but the reason I like dolls is because they're feminine. I feel like most, even when there's a male doll, people call it an action figure or something. I like that dolls are feminine, and the things that I want to express with my dolls are feminine. So a doll of myself doesn't particularly interest me because I choose to present more masculine. And I just, also it's like tricky because men's clothes, there's a lot of layering. And once you layer a lot on a doll, it's bulky really quick. And I just don't think it translates as well. And I'm not as interested in doing male dolls or dolls of myself or anything like that. But never say never. Are you never?
Never say never.
Yeah.
We have some more to show, but we do have some video that's really cool that we wanted to show to give our viewers watching all around the world. And thanks for tuning in, gang. We hope you're enjoying this episode. Thanks for all the fabulous comments coming in. I'm your host, Jim Masters, a very special guest here on the Jim Masters Show Live series. Joshua David McKenney, extraordinary creator of Pidgin Doll, artist, sculptor, photographer. He does it all. Here is a cool video on the story of Pidgin Doll. I think you'll enjoy it.
10 years ago, I set out to create my own doll, and I called her Pidgin. I named her Pidgin because at the time I lived in Brooklyn, where there were a lot of pigeons, and I just thought it was a cute name for a girl. My partner Eric suggested spelling it P-I-D-G-I-N, which means when two people who don't speak the same language find a way to communicate, and she became a kind of language for me. My first Pidgin dolls were made of porcelain, and I cast and fired them myself in the basement of my apartment building. Eventually, though, I moved into resin casting. I traveled with my dolls everywhere, taking photos wherever I went. Shooting Pidgin became its own art expression. I loved seeing her in the real world and making her come alive. At first, Pidgin was a human character, a modern girl who loved a vintage silhouette. She lived in the city, had a gay best friend, owned a sewing machine, and had 2 adorable cats. Eventually, though, I started thinking of her more as an actual doll, tiny and living in a world much larger than her. Because the character became a doll, she didn't have to be defined by her ethnicity, her age, or any particular time period, which I loved. Pidgin evolved into a way for me to express my feminine style and my love of dolls. I started posting my work on social media, which led to some really great projects, collaborations, and I got to meet some really cool people. As her social media following grew, her followers began creating fan art and dressing up as Pidgin dolls. I was learning what sorts of things were becoming distinctive about her through the eyes of others, and it was honestly one of the coolest experiences of my life. As the years went by, my dolls and photography became more and more refined, and eventually, my husband and I decided to take the leap, and we started working together on Pidgin full-time. We began branching out and using Pidgin for our own animation and media projects, as well as traveling all over the world to industry conventions. We moved to California, which led to some even bigger opportunities, and I started collaborating on productions with larger sets, as well as creating my own video content for TikTok and Instagram, which introduced me to a whole new audience that never knew I existed. Honestly, I don't know where things are headed. I don't think I ever did. Pidgin has evolved so far from where she started, but I know that deep down, she's still the same girl.
That's really amazing. That is absolutely amazing. And it shows the animation part of all of this too, which is extraordinary. I mean, that's got to be quite intense to bring them to life in that way, huh? Tell us about that process, Josh.
Yeah, no, stop motion animation is it's one of the most labor intensive. Every time we've done it, it's the most labor intensive thing to do because it just takes so long to get everything set up, and then the animation is very painstaking. But at the end, when the doll is really moving and emoting, there's no feeling like that. If I could just work and tell stories with stop motion animation with Pidgin, I think ultimately that would be like one of the most gratifying things, because I don't know. I've always loved puppetry, and I think that's you can get the most out of a inanimate object with stop motion as opposed to like a marionette or whatever. But usually, it's usually a collaborative thing. You're working with a miniaturist or a set designer. You're working with an animator. You usually have somebody to light it. You usually have somebody to rig the puppets or rig the dolls up for stop motion. You can sometimes get by on like a sort of shoestring. The first one we did where she blinked and she's like a 1920s showgirl. That one, it was just me and my husband and my friend Hillary, who's a stop motion animator. And we did that really like guerrilla style where, normally you're supposed to like screw the doll's feet into the ground so nothing moves. And, the fact that that you want everything to remain as still as possible so there's no jumping in the animation. So we just used a lot of hot glue and a lot of, and kind of figured it out. But, and it worked, so there's a way to do stop motion animation, where it's not quite so labor intensive, but it's still it's still a labor of love. Yeah.
A labor of love. That's a beautiful way to put it. We also have another video here to give people a perspective on the designing process. This is designing a doll, Peaches and Dreams. Let's take a look at that, gang, and then we'll be back with our illustrious guest, Joshua David McKenney.
In 2014, I created a doll inspired by the Blue Fairy from Pinocchio. I had only been making dolls for about 2 or 3 years, and I was casting them in the basement of my Brooklyn apartment. I didn't know a lot about sewing at the time, so to take this photo, I just tied a bunch of tulle and organza around her waist and just kind of moved it around until it was in a shape of a dress that I liked. For whatever reason, this doll and her silhouette have always kind of stood out to me as a milestone in my evolution as a doll maker. So when I was asked to do a limited edition of 16 dolls for the 2020 Modern Doll Collectors Convention, I decided to use this early version of the Blue Fairy doll as my muse. The long, flowing hair, of course, is a nod to the Blue Fairy, as well as to my favorite element of water. For her dress, I wanted it to be light, airy, and whimsical, but also big, dramatic, and high fashion. Something I imagine a fairy to be wearing. And I chose peach as the color because I'm obsessed with peach right now. I'm really happy with how the design turned out. I think she has a lot of the elements of the Blue Fairy that I loved, but updates them and becomes her own creation. So, for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Joshua David McKenney, and I am a Los Angeles and New York-based doll artist. My company is called Pidgin Doll, and I've been doing this work since 2012. I'm completely self-taught, and I do everything from the sculpting to the wigs to the photography to the fashion design. My earliest dolls were porcelain, and then I moved to resin, and about 3 years ago I started sculpting digitally. After a sculpt is finished, it's printed and then sent to a casting studio where it's reproduced in a high-quality resin. For this edition, I'll be using a newer sculpt of mine called Pigeon Petite. She's a 12-inch ball-jointed doll with 7 points of articulation and was inspired by the simplicity of the vintage fashion doll. Now, my favorite part of being a doll maker is painting the faces. I adore makeup, and changing Pigeon's face through the art of makeup is what gives me life. This first step is called blushing, which essentially is just adding a little flush to the cheeks and the lips. This simple step really helps the sculpt come alive. After that, I go in with a medium tone and start defining her features a little bit. I use darker colors to indicate where I'll be painting on her makeup later. This helps me keep everything even and symmetrical. So my original intention was to do a sort of thick, bold, natural-looking eyebrow, and I got about halfway through blocking them in when I decided that she just didn't have the expression that I wanted, and so I switched to a thin, elegant, old Hollywood-style eyebrow. This new brow shape gave her face the impish, whimsical quality that I was after, and I'm a lot happier with it. Once I've laid down all the features with powder, I have a better sense of how they're balanced on the face, and I can move on to the next step, which is further defining her features with paint. Makeup at this scale requires good lighting, a very steady hand, and a good collection of the world's tiniest brushes. Sometimes after the paint is dry, I go back in with a little more powder and just soften up any hard edges I don't like. But this made the eye makeup look a little bit too dark, so I went back in and painted a pale waterline, which helps brighten and open the eye back up. I define her eyebrows with a very fine single hair brush, and I decided on a coral color for her lips. Everything is going fine, and I think she looks good until I see them all together, and then I decide that the colors are still too heavy. So I wipe off the lipstick on every doll and repaint her lips in a very pale peach. Now she has the soft, dewy expression I'm after, and her lipstick will much better match the dress. Based on my illustration, a pattern is drafted, specifically designed to fit Pigeon Petite. We chose to use 2 different types of tulle just to give the dress a little bit more dimension. The pattern is pinned down to the fabric and then carefully cut out, ensuring that each layer of the skirt is the same size. The top of each skirt is then run through the machine with what's called a gathering stitch, which is then pulled. Once gathered at the appropriate volume, the skirts are all stitched together and then attached to the bodice. The full look contains 2 layers, an underlayer which is a foundation garment and provides the main structure of the dress, and then the outer layer, which is shorter, wispier, and gives the silhouette its distinctive wing shape. Of course, the 2 pieces can be worn separately, but together you really get the full impact of the silhouette. I'm so happy with how this edition came together. I think she's just so beautiful, and she gives me a lot of nostalgia for the dolls that I grew up wanting in the 80s and the 90s. I'll just leave you here with some footage of the doll spinning so you can take in how all the elements came together to create this very special doll. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to my channel. I would love to share more of my work with you.
That's what it's all about, gang. Like and comment and subscribe to his channel, to our channel, and It Takes a Village. You know, that's so well done too. And it shows, you know, you must be, are you very patient? Because it looks like it can be very labor intensive and almost tedious. Just, you have to really get it right. And it's extraordinary. You're a real craftsperson, I tell you, Joshua.
Thanks. Yeah, no, it definitely takes a lot of patience. I'm used to it now at this point, but I haven't seen that video for a long time though. I made that in like 2020, and that was before making videos was sort of my main gig, which it is now. And there's a lot I would change on that, but yeah, that was a collection that I did for the Modern Doll Collectors Convention, which is a convention I used to do a doll for every year for about 3 or 4 years. That was the last one I did with them. But yeah, they would commission me to do an edition of 30 to 50 dolls. And it was a traveling convention. So every year it would be in a different place, but it was usually the same group of collectors. And, but yeah, that was sort of making dolls like that and selling them to collectors as high-end art pieces was my main bread and butter for the first, I guess it'd be the first 3 or 4 years after Eric quit his law firm job and we started selling dolls together. So that's kind of what my business looked like then. It's very different now, but yeah.
That's incredible. Really, really is. I'd love to show a few more here that we sort of dug up of folks that people will recognize, like Zendaya. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, she was cool. You have a video for that? You have the video for that?
We could. Is there one? Yeah, we could.
There's one, but I don't know if you found it or not. But
we could probably dig for that.
That show I told you about.
I would imagine that the folks who, you know, especially the celebrities, when they see the dolls of themselves, they must be blown out of the water, huh?
I think. I mean, I've only heard from a few of them from the show. You know, we never heard from Zendaya. We did 2 episodes with her. This one was pretty cool. We worked with Stasha Harris, who's a very big name in the braiding world, and we actually used her fiber her braiding fiber to make the wig. And she's the one that I made the wig ahead of time, and then she braided it and set the braids in place and everything. And yeah, we were really, really happy with how that wig turned out. That was a really cool one.
Isn't that incredible? Really, yeah. She's a great actress too.
Yeah, and
Lady Gaga. That's incredible.
That one was I think her helmet is a half of a fishbowl that we had to make. But yeah, these are all from the tiny hair show that I told you about, where we would do celebrity hairstyles on Pidgin Doll and dress her up sort of like
Kim Kardashian.
That was Kim Kardashian's neon hair. That's
Grace Jones.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's what I did on my own. That wasn't for tiny hair. That was that's just because I'm a giant Grace Jones fan.
And I mean, I tell you, it really makes you feel that you're looking at her in so many different ways. What you captured, that older video, still, even though it's 2020, the way you described it and the way you showed everybody how everything comes together. And I mean, from the sewing and stitching to the, the actual painting things on, it's almost as if it's got such an old school quality to it. I mean, modern, but you're doing everything by hand in this world of everything done on machine. Not that you don't use digital as well. Of course you do. But I mean, just to see it this day and age, somebody actually doing everything still by hand, it's extraordinary,
It's very sad. I mean, I am not one to poo-poo digital art. I love the fact that computers exist. I don't think I would be nearly as refined as an artist if I didn't have the help of computers to help me execute in Photoshop and sculpt, did symmetrically, and all. There's all kinds of ways that computers are amazing for artists. But there is something really satisfying too about using your hands and having something physical and being able to touch it and interact with it. So I feel lucky that I can walk the line and kind of do both worlds.
If anybody watched the Super Bowl, you would know who this is, Rihanna.
Mm-hmm.
Another terrific one here. And it's as if it's the cover of Vogue. Really fantastic, huh?
Yeah, that was I recreated, it was a Vogue cover that she did. Nick Knight was the photographer who I'm a huge fan of. And as soon as I saw the image, I was like, I think I can do that on Pidgin. And so I painted her like Rihanna because they kind of have a similar facial structure.
Yeah.
Pidgin and the Rihanna sculpt, or the Pidgin sculpt in Rihanna. And I think it was this photo actually that is how I was contacted by Hearst Media to do the tiny hair show.
When they saw this, huh?
All the other celebrity looks, yeah. Dude, celebrity dolls, I have a very sort of like tortured relationship with because I don't. It's especially when it's a cool celebrity that I like this one. I love Twiggy. This is a Twiggy look, and so this I just made purely as an homage to Twiggy and sort of 1960s mod makeup. But I always feel like when you make a doll of a celebrity, the focus then goes on the celebrity and not like the work of the doll.
Mm-hmm.
So I try not to do too many celebrity dolls, if that makes sense. But
right, exactly. Right.
But I definitely do them. And this Twiggy one was really fun to do. Have you ever seen the movie, The Boyfriend?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I never knew that movie existed until like maybe a month ago. And now I'm absolutely obsessed with it.
Yeah. You'll laugh. Last weekend, we watched For Love of Ivy with Abby Lincoln, Beau Bridges, Nan Martin, and Sidney Poitier.
Oh, wow. I haven't seen that one.
That's a good one. Yeah. It's actually, somebody uploaded the whole thing commercial free on YouTube. So if you type in For Love of Ivy, it's a really good movie. Okay. Yeah, really, really good one. Carol O'Connor's in it as well. Here's a terrific Ariana Grande.
That was for the
and you
first
captured
season.
her, the expression too, like she tilts the head and makes that expression.
Thanks. Yeah, that one. I feel like some of the celebrity repaints were more successful than others, and I think the Ariana Grande one was particularly successful. That one was a really tricky wig to make because we took her from she started as a brunette and then we bleached her hair, but in the photos she had like this little tiny baby root like that where you see, and I actually like dyed that into the hair. So it's actually blonde hair, or it's like a yellow blonde that I just dyed a little bit of black on the very tip of the thing. And then I laid it into the wig cap, and it's a miracle that it's as tiny as it is, because it was so difficult to get. You can do big long roots easily, but a little baby root like that was really, really tricky at that scale. Because we're talking like, the wig is like this big,
That's it, huh?
Really little. So it's like the piece of hair that you have to dye black is like that long, but it turned out really well. It was a very successful, and it has a nice flow to it. But yeah, it's alpaca fiber is what I used for these wigs.
And this from start to finish, from the design to completion took how long for this one?
I mean, well, that one we shot. So for the Tiny Hair series, the dolls would start off with one hairstyle and end up with another one, and we would do like the real process of how that look is achieved. So I think we probably spent like 2 days filming this one. The doll was made ahead of time, and the clothes were made ahead of time. I think it was a Reebok ad that we were recreating, and that's what this look was from. But
Very cool.
yeah.
We want to slip in something else we have here, which is kind of fun, actually. This is Pidgin Doll Punks. You can see some of the actual animation as it's happening. Do you want to preface it, Joshua?
Yeah, this is just the stop motion animation that
it's incredible.
The second one we did, the one we produced here in LA, and it was for it was for an Instagram commercial. I'm sorry, I said it was Facebook. We did another job for Instagram that another stop motion job, but this one's for Facebook. They ended up not using it in the commercial, so we got the footage afterwards, and so I recut it to this song so we could share the footage on YouTube. That's what you're looking at.
Really, really cool. Here it is, gang. Pidgin Doll Punks. So cool.
Yeah, so there you could kind of see a little bit behind the scenes of how that stop motion came together and that sort of thing. So
how long does it take to put something like that together? Give people an idea of how,
it took about a week and a half to style the dolls, to rig them, to make all the set. I was able to find guitars and a drum kit for they're not for dolls, they're for rock and roll enthusiasts that want a replica of their favorite guitar in quarter scale, but it was the right size for the dolls. And then we kind of customized them and modified them for the video. We kind of distressed the drum kit to make it look like it had been drummed on, and put the Pidgin Doll logo on it, or not the logo, but like the writing of it. And so that took about a week and a half, and then we shot for about 2 days, and then the post-production work was probably another 2 days. And when you watch it, it's just the same 5 seconds of footage, and I just kind of move around the shot because there's so much going on. But ultimately, yeah, we only got about 5 seconds of footage, but they only needed about 2. So, that's how that came together.
Question: are they going on tour, and how do we get tickets?
Yeah.
Now that the pandemic is easing a little bit, they're going to be out on tour soon.
Yeah.
In your studio.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift too. You've even got Taylor Swift in here, which I think is kind of cool. I mean, there's so many different ones you've got in here. Let's see. Here's Lizzo. That's cool. Look at that.
We did a whole new sculpt for her that was a little more curvy. That's called Pidgin Doll Luxe. That she was the first one that we did. So she's a little thicker.
Yeah.
And, that was a really fun one to do. Which has little diamonds in her hair, like little. We had to go to the crystal district and find the tiniest Swarovski crystals we could find, and lay that up. But it was a look that she wore to the Met Gala.
That's right. Yes.
But
exactly.
this is a whole new sculpt for Pidgin Doll, a whole new body sculpt and face sculpts too.
Unbelievable.
Just a little fuller.
There's the Taylor Swift, and again, the expression, the head tilt, the eye shaping. It's just.
I was having the worst time getting a Taylor Swift likeness out of the Pidgin Doll sculpt for this one, and what I ended up doing actually is adding clay into her eye socket to make them smaller. And as soon as I did that, and then I just painted it black so you can't really tell that it doesn't match the skin. And once I made the eyes smaller, then it really started evoking Taylor Swift. So I love faces and makeup and proportion and finding ways to make it work. So although celebrity dolls aren't my favorite,
Right.
it's sometimes a fun challenge.
They're kind of cool to see, right? How they turn out, like Drew Barrymore and Scream. Yeah, look at that.
That was a custom. The drag queen Trixie Mattel asked me to make that for her boyfriend David, because he's a big Scream fan. So we did
what a gift that is! Wow.
Prescott. Yeah. And then I had to find a little vintage Barbie phone and paint it ivory like that, because she has a little ivory phone.
This one, when I saw this one, I thought this was absolutely, I mean, they're all fantastic. I mean, you're a master at what you do. The Marilyn Monroe Pidgin doll is extraordinary.
Oh yeah, she was.
That's amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, she was a custom doll that I did, and my friend Laura Folk, who is an amazing doll couturier, did the dress, the Mr. President dress. And that was sort of an era. This is when I was still in New York that I made this doll. And I was getting a lot of custom orders where people would have me do Pidgin doll as their favorite old Hollywood star. And so I would have to kind of study the makeup of that star and see if I could recreate and sort of evoke that celebrity's face on the Pidgin doll sculpt. And I think the Marilyn one was fairly successful.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. And so is Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah, that was a fun one too.
Incredible. And to show variety, Kylie Jenner.
Mm-hmm. That one. The Audrey and the Marilyn are the quarter scale, the larger doll that I usually do. And this is the Kylie Jenner was for tiny hair, the Snapchat show. So that we did another Met Gala look, and that's where this is from.
Kim Chi.
Mm-hmm. Kim is a friend of mine, and she wanted me to do a doll for her makeup line as a giveaway. And she asked me what look I wanted to do, and this is my favorite look that she wore. This is it was a Halloween costume made by Bicala, Bradley Callahan, who's an amazing queer fashion designer, originally out of Brooklyn. Then he moved to LA. Now he lives in Mexico, and he made the real one for Kim. And when I was trying to do the mini version, I just called him up because we're friends and asked him if he would try to do it on a small scale. So he actually made this one as well, and was able to find a way to make the logo for Kim's makeup line.
Marie Laveau, look at this one.
Yeah, she was cool. That was for another doll for the Modern Doll Collectors Convention. And I did 6 of her. She was like the table centerpiece, but it was I told you the convention traveled, and that year they were in New Orleans. So we did a New Orleans story and doll, and Marie Laveau was the centerpiece. And those dolls sold like in a second.
I don't doubt it. Yeah. Billie Eilish is in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That was another one for tiny hair. All those sort of like contemporary celebrities, those are all tiny hair dolls, and all the ones that are like old Hollywood stars, those are probably from collectors.
And then some of these cool, in terms of advertising, promotion, Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, we've done several ads for Pop-Tarts on TikTok.
Do they send you some?
She was the first one. They just asked me if I wanted to do an ad for them, and if I did, what would I do? And I just said, could I just do a doll inspired by one of your flavors? And they said, yeah. And they'd let me. I just had to pick any flavor that wasn't like a seasonal flavor.
Yeah. And
I chose Confetti Cupcake as my first one because the fabric of the dress she's wearing, it's like it was really expensive. But I only bought a little bit of it. But it's really beautiful, like sort of woven lace, and there's little beads in between each little piece of lace or what, I don't even know how to describe it, but it looks a lot like sprinkles. And so I was like, well, I have this perfect fabric to make this dress. So I chose that as the flavor, and then we did the little polka dot hairstyle. And but yeah, it was a really, really popular TikTok ad, and it was sort of my first big client as far as making doll content for social media. This is the second Pop-Tarts one I did. We finished that one, I guess it was in November. And the flavor was brown sugar cinnamon. And we wanted it to be sort of like a Bob Mackie 1970s variety show sort of vibe, like the Cher show or something. So my husband Eric built the set and the stairs and the lights behind them. And in the video, I create the dolls that are inspired by brown sugar and cinnamon.
The brown sugar and cinnamon ones are good. They are
No,
tasty.
I ate too many of them while we were filming.
Right. This is cool. What's happening here?
That's the that was the shot for the kimchi bear doll that we did for the giveaway for their makeup line.
That is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Here's in Form Labs.
That's the glass. The 3D printer that I have behind me here is by Form Labs, and so this is the first project that I did on it, where I sculpted this dress and crown and sleeves and shoes digitally, and then I printed them, because ever since I was little, I always had this sort of fantasy about a glass dress, and so I was able to sort of execute it. It's not really glass; it's resin, but it is clear and it has this sort of look of a glass dress.
It does, yeah. Netflix.
Yeah, that was for Wendell and Wild, which is a show that came out this past Halloween. That we did. Eric and I did a TikTok ad for, and everything behind her is a set that Eric built. So he built he made all the trees out of paper and kind of twisted them, and we went to Michael's and bought fake snow and fortunately it was because it was Halloween time. They happened to have little mini gravestones.
Right.
We just kind of built this on our kitchen table and lit it and made a really cool Netflix ad. And then her boots and her boombox there, I also 3D printed, which is cool.
That's really cool. Yeah. There's another. Hell yeah.
This is Posca. So in addition to doll making, I also do a lot of fashion illustrations, and Posca is the brand that I use the most. So everybody always asks me what markers I use, and so Posca hired me to do a little ad for them. So I just talked about it. So that's what this is from. But they're great. They're great markers. This is a ad advertising the TikTok creator marketplace, which is how brands can connect with creators like me or other creators and find partnerships.
The coverage too that you've had has been terrific. The notoriety. I mean, articles and covers and spreads and people just really blown away by it all. You must pinch yourself every once in a while. I mean, to you love what you do, you're passionate about it, but when others pay heed to it and really want to focus on it, it's got to be quite extraordinary how maybe even surpass some of your expectations.
For sure. I mean, I when I started making dolls, I just had a sense that there were doll artists that exist, but I just had a sense that my talents would really go into this well, and I would sort of shine as a doll maker more than I probably was as an illustrator, just being an illustrator. And so I really invested a lot of time and energy, a lot, like an unreasonable amount of time and energy. Like it really, when you mentioned my patience, like when I look back on all the failed things that I've done and all the money that I spent on failed projects and casting, and it's really ridiculous. Yeah. But I just had this vision, and I honestly felt like there wasn't anything in the world that I would be as good at as I am at what I'm doing. So I just knew that I just put everything into it. And I feel very, very lucky that it paid off, and I'm getting recognition, and I've been able to carve out a niche for myself. But it certainly didn't come easy. It didn't fall into my lap. It was a lot of work.
A sculptor that carves out the niche for himself. How appropriate. That's good for branding, actually.
Yeah. But,
what do you see as the future of all of this, or is it still evolving and there's no master plan? You're just going with it as it's happening.
It's hard to say. I mean, like, to be honest, so many of the opportunities that have come up for me, I could have never predicted. If you would have told me 2 years ago that I'd be doing Pop-Tart TikTok ads, like that just would have never occurred to me to even think about doing that. But I do have a lot of plans and things I want to work on. I just signed with a new management company that wants to help me sort of take things into new directions. that I'm interested in. I'm interested in getting into storytelling and kind of maybe creating a little bit more of a universe around Pidgin Doll. I'm interested in fashion. I'm interested in accessories. Kind of, although Pidgin will always be a doll and about dollishness, I'd like to find ways to make it more accessible and more applicable to people that maybe aren't interested in dolls or owning dolls, but still like the whole aesthetic and universe around it. So do I know exactly what that looks like? Not really, but that's kind of where I'm thinking. I'm trying to not pigeonhole myself, if we're doing puns here, and kind of
He does comedy too.
Taking it in other directions, because it is a way that a pigeon has become a way that I express my aesthetic and my love of femininity and my love of fashion and my love of fashion history and makeup and all these sorts of things. And I would like to kind of find ways to expand on those ideas that aren't necessarily dolls themselves.
Tying it all together, right? In so many different ways, all the different elements of who you are and what you love and your passions and all the different skill sets that you have, marrying it together into these incredible creations, which is extraordinary. Not quite a pigeon doll, but a gift from an aunt that was a collector, and my cousin ended up passing this down to me. Mr. George Burns is with us.
Oh, wow.
I didn't have the serious collector of all kinds of dolls, a room actually filled with thousands of dollars of dolls. And this, through the family, got passed down to me. He's quite heavy. He's on a pedestal. It's a collector. I'm not even supposed to be like touching it, but he pops on the show, and he's just totally blown away by your skill and your passion and love for what you do, Joshua.
That's a cool doll.
Isn't that cool? That is really a cool. Yeah, he's on the pedestal.
What's the tag? Who makes that doll?
This one, I believe, I think it's Signature Legend. At least that's what it says. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
So he pops in, he's got his cigar, and he has his red pocket square
glasses. Yeah.
Yeah. And he always hangs down below. He's sort of my associate producer. He hangs down below, drinking his martinis and nursing his cigar. This was really awesome. The blessings and joys that are in your life, my friend, you've got a lot of blessings in your life. What are some of those that inspire you to do this incredible work?
I mean, I think the biggest blessing really is just, I think the best thing about the way social media makes you accessible to people, and in particular, and in my case, young people, has been the biggest blessing. I get letters and notes from kids all the time. I get all this sort of like fan art of kids sort of taking inspiration from my work and learning to draw, and young boys accepting that they like dolls and feminine things, and me, seeing me and them being able to feel confident in that, and that's not something to be ashamed of. I think being able to reach an audience, and particularly like the younger generation, is really the most powerful, and the thing that I'm the most grateful for. That it's incredibly soul fulfilling.
It really is on so many different levels. So the dolls necessarily are not for sale, but people can go to the website to learn more about all of this, which is kind of cool, huh?
Yeah. You can go to the website. There's lots of photos of dolls and some of my videos, and but I tell people the best way to sort of interact with what I do is just to follow me on social media. I'm pretty active on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, and that's kind of the best way to keep up with my work and what I'm up to. Yeah. Really
cool stuff. This was really awesome, my friend. I really appreciate all the time. And Again, we're introducing people maybe to something they didn't even know it existed, or the real fans, the super fans who are learning a little bit more about behind the scenes, how it all comes together. This is fantastic. Thanks for spending all the time with us here on the Jim Masters Show Live and sharing your story and sharing the work with us. And I really hope that you enjoyed the time with me as much as I have with you, and the show met whatever expectations you had as well, my friend.
Absolutely. No, thank you for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
Good luck with everything. And let's stay in touch. Keep you posted on cool things that you're working on. We're very happy to share it with our viewers here on the show. Again, I think, you're a master at what you do and you're so passionate about it. And it's cool to see somebody doing it, and doing it by hand as painstakingly as you do it is extraordinary. So kudos to you for all the beautiful work, my friend.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
You be well. You take care. Thanks for all the time.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye now. Joshua is amazing, isn't he? Right here on the Jim Masters Show Live, entertainment, lifestyle, variety talk show series. And again, if you want to check out, the website is here, pidgindoll.com. And of course, all the social media and everywhere else. Really incredible work. If you joined us late, gang, you can see it all again on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, and it really was so cool to have him here. And you may have been familiar with Pidgin Doll, and maybe you weren't, and you got a chance to learn about it here on the show. That's what we're all about. Again, he's an artist, designer, sculptor, photographer, you name it, social media, celebrity, and all kinds of cool stuff. He does it for the passion of it, and he's expressing himself through the work, something he's enjoyed since childhood that he's now getting a chance throughout these years to express in such a beautiful way. I mean, the work is extraordinary. And our guest, Joshua David McKenney, makes it look so easy, and he's humble about it. But the work that goes in behind the scenes is it's painstaking. And you got a chance to see it with some of the videos as well, showing you how it's all done right here on the Jim Masters Show Live, entertainment, lifestyle, variety, celebrity talk show series. That's a mouthful. Just say the Jim Masters Show. We'll know what you're talking about. If you want to see this episode again, it's right here on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. You can follow me on social media as well, all at Jim Masters TV, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everything, all right there. We try to make it easier. Everything is Jim Masters TV. Also, don't forget to give this episode a like. Yeah, give it a like on our YouTube channel and drop a comment in the comments section. Let us know where you're watching from, how much you enjoy the series, what you loved about this episode. And also, don't forget to subscribe. You can always drop us a line as well, and we'll try to get them on the show if we can. We appreciate it. And you guys are terrific. Thank you very much, Maureen. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Jim and Levity's tight Levity hugs headed your way. Back at you, Maureen. Thanks for being here and your loyalty as well. Gang, we're going to sign off for now. We love you all. Be well. Take care. I say see you later. Since we're talking about dolls, there's the Mr. Levity doll from Maureen. Kind of cool, huh? Got this for Christmas. There he is, sort of like a mini me. How cool is that right here? Did you enjoy the show? He absolutely loved it. And he's in love with Pidgin Doll now. Makes sense. You have lots to choose from, Mr. Levity Jr. We'll see you on the next one. Jim Masters here. Thanks for watching. And we thank you for your time this time. Till next time, right here on the Jim Masters Show. Be well and take care. Cheers.